Hello everyone, welcome to another Caketastic Cakes. I'm going to show you today how to make Oogie Boogie out of gum paste from The Nightmare Before Christmas. And it's very appropriate with Halloween coming up and everything else like that. So if you like, please like and subscribe, and here we go. Okay, I mixed green, brown, white, and gray together to get this weird kind of color. I made a big lump and then basically make it into a sloppy kind of a cone, like an upside down ice cream cone. The tip at the top, as you can see, I just bent it over backwards and really kind of round it off. You're going to have the two lumps sort of in the middle, and right there all I'm doing is bending that tip up in the back, because the way his little tuft goes, it goes back behind his head and then it tips up. So you want it to go up, down, up. I'm giving him a nice round belly, and I'm also kind of separating out a little bit a round part near the top. That's going to be his head. So his body is basically mainly two parts. You got the round head and then the bigger, rounder body. I wanted to show you this part because the gum paste was getting dried out, and what I'm doing is I'm rubbing it with some Crisco. That way it'll stay moist on the surface, won't dry out as fast. It's a nice little hint, and it will dry eventually, so he won't stay shiny. Okay, using this tool, I'm sticking it in and then pulling up to create eyes. I'm using my finger to make sure to separate out, see, and make sure that the eyelids the top of the eyes come out. So I don't want it to just push in and make an indent. I want his eyes to actually come out of his head a little bit. And this way I'm pushing down on top of my tool to make sure it does come out a little bit. His eyes are pretty deep into his head, I gotta say, and they're rather angular. They kind of go down like an upside down teardrop with the point coming toward the center, because he's always kind of got that evil kind of look going, see, right there. And don't worry about them being perfect because it's a Tim Burton. Nothing is symmetrical in Tim Burton world. So, okay. And with the tool, I'm now pressing down on top of the eyes to even more accentuate that they stand out and kind of give them even more of a sinister, glaring kind of a look. I'm bringing them together in the middle and then just bringing a little line down in the center just to really give them that kind of feel to them. Okay, and now I'm going to do his mouth, because that's really all he's got is two eye holes and a mouth hole, mouth flap. I don't know, he's kind of muppety with his mouth. So I'm doing the same thing basically that I did with the eyes. I'm making the indentation and I'm trying to lift up underneath of it to make it come out, because if you just press in, like I said before, you're going to just end up with an indentation in it, and it's going to be rounded off and pressing down and in. This way I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to lift it up and pull it out as I'm pushing in to try to really bring his mouth out to make it have more sharp edges like he does in the movie. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm doing the same thing on the bottom. I'm using my thumb to kind of bring it out and pinch out a little ledge. That would be the edge of the bottom part of his mouth, and I'll do the same to the top. And just like I said before, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just accenting it by putting a line underneath that ledge I made. And I'm just making sure his head doesn't get mushed back into his body, because the gum paste was pretty soft since I just mixed the color. I'm doing the same thing I did again up top. I'm using my finger to kind of pinch it out a little bit and make it more like a sharp edge so that he has nice angles and he's not all smooth and round and cuddly. He's a little more rough and gruesome than that. Okay, so there you go. You can even see how it is really rough looking, like his burlap body looks. And I had to keep reshaping it because, like I said, he was soft and he was just kind of sagging on me. This tool I have, I don't know what it's called. It makes patterns. I love it for making stitches or seams. It's a Wilton tool. I got it, I want to say at AC Moore. And I'm going around the sides, all around the sides, because he is basically a big burlap sack that was stitched together to hold all the bugs that's inside of him. So that's what I'm trying to emulate here. So you go down, around, you might have to press it, go over it a few times, make sure it's good and deep. But it looks pretty darn cool when you get it all done. It really gives them a good look. If you don't have this tool, you could do the same effect if you have something you could poke with, like some type of a shaping or modeling tool that you could just poke, 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 poke. It would take forever, but you could do it that way. Now what I'm doing is I'm using a paper towel. I just got a little piece of a paper towel, and I'm pressing him all over his body, trying to give it that burlap pattern to it so he looks really rough and burlappy. That is now an adjective. And you can't really see it too well here. You can see it in the initial picture and at the end, though, that it came out really good. That he really does have the pattern to him, and it really makes it look sharp. He looks much better like that than just smooth. And that's all I did. I just pressed a paper towel. And I'm going to have to go over him a few times because he is soft, so he does lose his shape. But you'll see, and it's okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making legs. I just made an oval, round off the one end. He has short little stumpy legs. So these are going to be very short and stumpy. I'm using my tool to just basically make an edge, a flat edge, so that I can put part of the leg underneath of him to attach it, and it will go flush up to his body and not be kind of tapered and not make his body raise up off the ground too much in the front. Same thing as I did before with his actual body, using that tool again to go around the edge of his legs. I'm going to do this for all of his limbs, his arms and his legs. So you're going to see me do this a few times. Make sure you get a good deep pattern in there. And then I'm going to use the paper towel that I had before and just press some marks into it. You're going to see that the marks in the legs come out much stronger, so you can really see them there. And don't worry about that if it's too strong. All you got to do is just rub it a little, kind of like what I'm doing here, and it'll fade. It'll fade to whatever degree you want it to be, basically. And because I did have pretty good pressure going with the paper towel, I had to reapply my stitching a little bit. All right, so there you go. Now a little bit of water. Where's that water? Let's see. Still fiddling with the shape of it. A little bit of water painted on there. Sit him right on top, and there you go. He's got his leg. And you do the same thing with the other side. You cut off the other end of your cylinder, round it off, flatten it out so you have a nice edge for him to sit on to attach. Add your seams with your tool or whatever you've got to make a seam. You want to make sure to add the seam, though, because it really does make a big difference with how he looks. The paper towel is just a nice bonus, but the little seam thing is you really need that, so don't forget that part. And then stick it on the other part. You can kind of see it in the upper corner there. These are going to be his arms. Again, same thing, but his arms are going to be longer. I have him in the picture that I made holding a bug. You don't have to do that if you don't like it. It's, just to make it look a little cuter. But again, it's not necessary. You can just have him sitting not holding anything, or a skull, or, whatever. Be creative. But the same idea with the arms. I was just matching up the length because I am going to have him holding the bug, so I needed his arms to reach toward the center pretty much. So I found a length I like. You don't want them too thick or it's going to look weird either, the arms, I mean. Add your seam to it, nice and gentle. Make sure it's good and deep. Do the paper towel pressure mark stuff so it looks all roughed up. Add your water. I just use a little water on a paintbrush. Press it into place where you want it to go. And then what I did is I used the seam print making tool thing and just kind of did it over the edge of his arm so it looks like it was sewn into the fabric. And then do the same thing on the other side. Cut off your wedge, shape it out, put your marks in, attach it. There you go. Now I made a little caterpillar for him to hold. It's just a green cylinder that I used my knife to make pressure marks in. You're going to see, I'm going to touch them up here. All I did was press on it and kind of roll it a little bit just to accentuate. I left the head near the top so it has a bigger mark without any type of a line. Or bigger, not mark, I don't know, you know what I'm saying. This is an edible food coloring marker. I'm just drawing on 2 little eyes and a sad face because he's about to get eaten and made part of Oogie Boogie's body. Okay, now this is where the fun part comes in for me. This is green food coloring and black food coloring. I use the gel stuff you can get. Oh geez, I'm going to say Walmart, any type of AC Moore, Michaels, any of those places, they all have it. And using a paintbrush, a little bit of water, I'm mixing the 2 colors together, and I'm going heavier on the black with this. I'm going to fill in the eyes and the mouth sockets to make it look a little more shadowy inside. You see what I did there? And just paint it around, fill it in. Same thing with his mouth. Try to be careful not to get it on the outside. If you do, just, use your clean, damp paintbrush and wipe it off, or use a damp paper towel, wipe it off. It'll come off if you add a little water to it and just kind of rub it. So don't worry about that. That's not a big deal. I'm using the same heavier on the black type of paint there, food coloring there. And I'm tracing over his seams. I'm just doing that to highlight them a little bit, to accentuate them, and to make them look a little more rough and give it some, I don't know, depth, detail. I don't know what word I'm looking for here. But I went over all of his seams like that. I did his arms, I did his whole body, I did his legs. And with this, you don't have to worry about being too heavy-handed because it's just going to make him look a little more dirty and dingy. Now I'm taking a little bit more of the green into it and very little bit on the paintbrush, so there's not too much there. I'm just adding him some shading. I'm going on the lower part of his arms, under his legs, on the lower part of his back and his belly. You could see I did the top of his head where that little piece tips off the back, of where it just kind of flops down in the back. I'm going to go on any of the pressure marks I made, so I'm going on top of his eyes, under his eyes, around his mouth. I'm going, again, a little bit darker just to kind of highlight it again. And it doesn't take much. I'm just going around his face here. And like I said, do his arms, under his neck. Just brush him over a little bit. It makes see that right there? That was a little heavy, so all I did, just wipe it off, rub it in. That works really well too. If you find that it's a little dark there, just use your finger and rub it and it'll go away. And I don't know if you noticed there's a spot on his eye, between his eyes there. That's a little too dark. I'm going to do the same thing there. I'm just going to give him a little rub in a moment. You'll see. So I'm just, again, the back, around the back of his body. The little bit of coloring really makes the details from the paper towels stand out. And it really makes a difference. Like if you add shading to things, a little bit of detail like this really goes a long way, really sets them apart. See, I just wiped it off with my thumb there on his eyes. And there he is. He looks really good. So check out my other videos. Please like and subscribe. Please show me some loving, and thank you very much. Bye.